Already know I'm on the way. Why is the pieces falling place? Go, domino. I'ma get it if I say.
I mean, I gotta say, this is the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. People that say they're bored, Gavin, I don't know what planet they're living on. This is sensational. Everywhere, you can't throw a stick without, you know, hitting some ultra massive, sensational incredibleness. I mean, I am actually in heaven right now.
Yeah, I always say that to people at Fox who aren't on the Trump train. I go, you're an entertainer. This guy is a right-wing entertainer. I don't understand why you don't support him. What are you, crazy? At the very least, even if you're a liberal, you have to admit, this is the first time, and I'm going to say a quarter century, that dads have even cared about an election. They're answering questions on polls. They're asking, Americans are asking details about contested conventions and all this minutia about Congress. For the first time ever, we care, and that's because it's exciting.
So I think we are seeing a major reawakening happening. I threw out quite a platter there. What do you want to tackle first?
Well, this war on Melania is curious, and I was shocked to see the New York Post is doing it because they've been with Trump since the beginning. But it seems like they want that Hillary's people, their only card is genitalia. Women, women, women. And they've noticed that when you bring up Melania, probably because she's so stunning, that it loses women's vote. I actually met a woman at the airport, and she was complaining about Melania, and she's saying, I don't want a whore for the first lady. She yelled that in the airport bar, and I just thought, these women are unhinged. Why did we have the 19th Amendment again?
Well, you think liberals would love the girl-on-girl shoot.
Yeah. No, they have to be ugly for them to like lesbians. They have to be hirsute and be wearing a...
So Janet Reno and Hillary would be okay?
Yeah, they have to be African-American women of color for it to be interesting with really ugly tattoos, you know, masculinized. But they're really going for this emotional vote. And I read an interview with Michael Moore, of all people, and he said 81% of voters are female, visible minority, or young. And those are disproportionately emotional groups. And if they could just keep hammering this same propaganda on them, it's going to be a real force to be reckoned with, because the sane ones, the dads, are the only ones voting with their brains.
And by the way, it's not like the, quote, women and minorities are getting something going with Hillary and the globalists. They want them even more poor. That's why they target them. I mean, this is so obvious.
That's the frustrating thing is in progressives, in their mind, it goes like this. There's the left that wants to help the poor and give blacks welfare, and that's nice. And then there's the mean Republicans who want to deny everyone. They're all about austerity, and they say, you don't need money, you're a lazy piece of trash. It's never occurred to them that we here on the right, the libertarians, the conservatives, a lot of the Republicans, we don't like welfare for black people because we don't think it's good for them. And we've seen examples of this time and time again. Look at American Indians. They've been hurt with welfare and freebies. Freebies leave you worse off.
Well, sure. I mean, the reservation was set up to dehumanize them.
Exactly. We didn't evolve to like free stuff. We didn't evolve to get free college. We evolved to have punishment for bad decisions. And if you spent $250,000 taking speech pathology at NYU, you got to be punished. That was a dumb move.
Well, look at how they say don't feed the squirrels at the park. I mean, because they turn into these obese, mindless, lazy creatures.
Yes. Well, they still like to talk about how the poor in America are starving and how there's so many hungry children. John Stossel summed it up best. He said, the biggest problem America has right now is that our poor eat too much.
Well, look, I've been overweight before myself, and still a little bit, but I got to tell you, I was in San Antonio yesterday taking care of business, and it's the fattest city in the U.S., and you're driving around, it's like being in the movie WALL-E. I don't hate these people. I feel sorry for them, but, you know, I mean, it's crazy. What is going on here?
Yeah, you know, Michelle Obama had a point. She said that we have to watch out for nutrition in schools, and we have something like 500,000 people die of obesity every year. I don't have a problem with you if you're fat. Some of my best friends are fat. I'm fat. But you can't, right now we glorify it and we say it's healthy for you. You're going to be fine. Look at this hot bikini bod this woman has. And you go, look, I'm not judging you, lady, but you're dying. And this is what we keep doing. We keep normalizing bad behavior or vices, really. And we do this with trans. We go, it's good that you're becoming a woman. It's healthy that you're removing your penis. And we're giving children hormone blockers because we're saying it's good that you think you're a woman and you're a man, even though...
Well, my issue is, why do I have to pay for it? I mean, if anybody wants to cut their wee-wee off, that's their issue. But why am I paying for it?
And it's child abuse. You give a kid hormone blockers at 10 years old.
No, I agree. That's child abuse.
Chemically, and you're encouraging something that has a brutal suicide rate. So we're now normalizing behavior that is so off the wall that it's dangerous. And look at Salon, by the way, in Slate, normalizing pedophilia and saying, don't call them child molesters if they haven't molested children. They're just pedophiles.
I noticed for TV viewers can see it, obviously. Radio listeners can't. You're wearing Make America Great Again, the classic red hat. You've got Trump, Make America Great Again, white shirt. I guess you're in the suburbs of New York. You were describing to me during the break what it's like when you're on the train and people see this. What do they do?
Yeah, it's a funny city to wear this shirt in because New York changes so fast and there's so many different, like people think of New York as just the Upper West Side, rich liberals who read the New York Times, and that's definitely a big contingent, but there's the blue collars, the retired cops, there's Coney Island, there's all the immigrants, there's the yuppies, there's the rich girl blogger feminist with the blue hair. So you get off at different stops on the subway and you're in different culture. I was in Williamsburg today and Manhattan, and in Williamsburg, when the hipsters see the shirt, you think they'd go like, screw you, but there's an air of capitulation and they sort of just bow their heads. I think deep down they want to be dominated by Trump and they know that their version of events isn't better. Like they call it creative destruction, but it's really just sabotage. They want to wipe out traditionalism and then you go, all right, what do you got? And they go, I don't know. You know, they did that with gender. They go, male and female is too restrictive. And you go, okay, what do you got? And they give us 4 more. And then they go, is that it? No. And they keep giving us more. And I realize, you're like ISIS. You're insatiable. You don't know what you want. You need.
I was about to say, they want to blow up traditionalism. Western traditionalism is what is the fount of true liberalism and all the choices. They're trying to blow up the source of all their damn freedom.
And you create a vacuum when you do that. And you know who fills in the vacuum? Not progressives, but ISIS, but immigrants, but Sharia law. As soon as you say marriage doesn't matter, then someone else moves in who's a polygamist and says, okay, we're going to do 5 Muslim wives who have to wear garbage bags on their head.
I was about to say, though, why does the left, we talk a lot about this, but they don't just go along with Islam. They love it. It's like they're so mad at Christians that don't want to bake a cake, but then they totally want to flip out and just bow down and make excuses for the most radical, foaming at the mouth cavemen Islamicists.
It's bizarre, and I've spent hours trying to figure it out. The only thing I can do is come up with some sort of Freudian theory about daddy issues where they go, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I notice that my dad's uncomfortable when I'm a lesbian, when I'm not married. My dad gets uncomfortable when I take how to be gay in college. My dad gets uncomfortable when I support Islam. Okay, I like all those things. And you're sitting there as a dad going, you realize that most of those are not what's good for you. And Islam will wipe you out. You liberals will be the first to go if we get Sharia law in this country. The white male patriarchy that they hate so much is the one that gives them the most freedom, the most leeway.
So really, it's a bunch of spoiled brats, and,
Yes.
and then now they're just letting the robber in the front door, even though the robber's going to hog time and rape them.
Exactly. It's a real problem with this country. And I'm an immigrant from Canada, and I'm very grateful to be here. And one thing you notice, Ayaan Hirsi Ali talks about this. She goes, these people who've had nothing but freedom, they don't know how lucky they are. And as an entrepreneur from Canada who had to be punished by the government every time I came up with an idea, I am so thankful to be in a place where you can incorporate for $1,000 in Delaware and start your business the next day. These Americans don't know how lucky they are. And if one person, I'm glad you brought up Obama, if there's one person who doesn't understand the entrepreneur, it's Barack Obama. I mean, here's one tiny thing that is huge that no one gets if they haven't started a business. For every success, I estimate you have 12 failures. So when you go to a water park like Great Wolf Lodge, know that those brothers from Madison, Wisconsin, who started that, had a dozen brutal failures where their wives were thinking of leaving them, where they were overdrawn at the bank, where they were looking forward into an abyss of bankruptcy. They kept plugging away and they made it. But someone like Barack comes along who's never really done anything like that, and he goes, well, someone just gave you a water park. You used my roads to get to your water park, so you owe me half.
Even though it was the people's money that built the roads to begin with.
Yes, and you better not say that in New York, because when I go upstate, I pay at least $40 in tolls coming back and forth. So the roads here are not free, and we still have to struggle to get our taxes below 50%. I mean, New York is communist in a lot of ways, and these ingrates think it should be more. These anarchist punks who hate rules want more regulation.
I was about to say, everything's upside down. All the anarchists I see have Mao Zedong or Lenin or Stalin tattoos. They have red flags. They pull up in like brand new sports cars. And then they're calling themselves anarchists. They're the opposite of an anarchist. They're a statist little tick.
And it's frustrating. Like, at least with slavery, you go, all right, blacks would be the first to go. And there's an argument that they wouldn't be. And maybe you'd need the, I don't know, you'd need the labor. But with these artistic creative types and Mao, you go, I don't have to conjecture that you'd be the first to go. I saw he killed 77 million. The creative types were at the top of the list. So you're wishing your own suicide. It really is a form of self-hatred.
No, I agree. It's mass Stockholm syndrome, unconscious suicide, because no one beat the hell out of them when they were a kid. And I'm not saying it's great to be like that, but you know, most of us growing up at least had some rough times, had to go get a job. I mean, the best thing ever happened to me was rough stuff. And I think it's that they've never had legitimate suffering. They don't know how good they've got it. So subconsciously, they're trying to commit suicide, but take us with them.
Couldn't agree more. And you can tell when someone's never been punched in the face. You can tell by the way they talk that they've never, ever had a moment where they go, oh, wow, there's ramifications for stuff I say. And another factor, by the way, outside of the awesome bullying that we all went through that was ultimately great for us, is kids. You know, you got someone like Angela Merkel. She doesn't have kids. She is purposely sabotaging her country, her culture. It's really like a mass shooting. She's sort of, I know I'm going to die. I'm going to take as many Germans down with me as I can.
What do you think's behind the 5 million they brought in there? They tried to cover it up, what they're doing here. Daily stabbings, murders, bombings, and then the guy's named Ali, they changed the name to David. I mean, this is beyond 1984. I mean, I don't know how they created such a freakazoid cult.
Well, here's what's going on here. They see themselves as superior to the masses, the dirty, unwashed masses, because they're communists. And communists ultimately are like monarchs. They have a hierarchy in their mind, and they will control the good like Obama, and he will dole out the good as he sees fit to those who deserve it, because we're too stupid to handle it. Alex and Gavin, they would just sort of feed their faces and then buy Ferraris and crash them into a fence post. So they go, here, I'm going to dole it out evenly. And what the media is also like that. Angela Merkel and the German press and the French politicians and the French press, they all say, I'm not going to report this too accurately because I don't want to start a race war and I don't want there to be too much animosity. And you go, wait a minute, I thought your job was reporting on things. No, no, no. My job is slowly doling out the information and deciding what you are capable of. And then we find out, what was this, a couple weeks ago, that at Bataclan, they were castrating victims, taking out their testicles and putting it into these guys' mouths.
That's liberal.
As they died. And the press and the government cut that detail out because we're too stupid to handle it. We would get too mad and we're too irrational. So just like all political correctness is someone telling me what words to use for black, and it's African American this year and it's person of color, it's basically these Victorians, right? These modern Victorians.
It's all to make you feel insecure. You can never reach the level, the benchmark. We're just all guilty.
Yes. And the irony is they're telling us about things that they've never tried that we live in. And that's why I love that You Didn't Build That. I can't recommend this book enough. Michelle Malkin, Who Built That, where she's pretty apolitical about it. And she just goes through the guys who invented air conditioning, the guy Maglite, Flashlight, the Roeblings who built the steel bridges, all these great stories of entrepreneurs. And you just think, I wish I could force Obama and all these communists to read this. Because when you read about entrepreneurs, the people who built the Western world, you don't see these greedy, you know, rappers on jet skis. You see guys working their fingers to the bone for the betterment of society in general. I mean, look at air conditioning alone.
Because there's an instinctive need to build things and innovate in the highest levels of the human spirit, transcending things. And Gavin Mcinnis is our guest. You're absolutely right. You look at communist countries, they can't even ever make cars. They have to buy their ships and tank factories from somebody else. I mean, look at North Korea. Look how South Koreans are even beating out the Japanese as innovators now. The North can't make a car. Look at the Russians, some of the best mathematicians and engineers in the world. Under communism, they can hardly make cars. I mean, it's so obvious that the claim that the state creates stuff is pure baloney.
I know, and it goes, I keep going back to evolution, which ultimately is code for God. I don't like to say God around atheists because they shut their ear holes, but
sure.
Isn't it curious that when we go against evolution and we say, actually, I'm going to go against this 250,000-year-old pattern of hunting a woolly mammoth, throwing a spear, getting a woolly mammoth, and just start doling out woolly mammoths to people and see how it goes. What you're doing there is you're playing God. And when you play God, you're messing with his formula, and it ultimately blows up in your face.
That's right, the animating contest of running them down, running them over the side of a cliff, and then cutting it up and processing it for the winner, or you die. It's not work. It creates a culture. And instead, imagine just people sitting around with woolly mammoth meat being dropped by helicopters. We wouldn't be here.
Austerity works, and that's why you see so much innovation. And I'm sorry, but if you're near the equator, you're not under duress. If you don't have Siberian winters in your history, you tend not to be as tenacious because the non-tenacious die. And I can't remember who it was that asked Vicente Fox when he was president of Mexico. They said, what have you come up with? What have you invented? And he talked about the Aztecs and the Mayan calendar and all this stuff. And they said, no, let's do the past 100 years. And he goes, the taco? It's not even that handy of a food, really. It's got nothing on it.
Now, wait a minute. Don't bash Mexican food. It has innovated quite a bit.
Eat it at an angle, and then it's falling out the side. It gets in your ears.
It's innovated my belt size. Hey, stay there. Gavin Mcinnis. It is true. The studies at Ice Age civilizations, whether it be Japan or Europe or whatever, had